The crowd is screaming, not cheering, screaming.
Vast, it's successful, it's rich. And Trajan really personifies that.
50,000 Romans packed shoulder to shoulder under the brutal afternoon sun. Senators in white robes, soldiers covered in dust, merchants, slaves, criminals, foreign visitors from places Rome conquered years ago. Every eye locked onto the sand below. A gladiator stumbles backward, bleeding heavily from the leg. His opponent raises a sword. The crowd erupts louder. Some want mercy, others want blood.
What's happened to him, how he feels about it, why he thinks it matters or might make a difference.
Thousands of voices crash together into one massive wave of noise echoing through stone corridors and marble arches. And somewhere high above the arena floor, Emperor Titus is watching all of it. Not just the fight, the people, their reactions, what makes them angry, what makes them afraid, what makes them loyal. Because the Colosseum wasn't just a stadium, it was Rome's version of the internet, a place where news spread instantly, where politics became entertainment, where outrage turned into public opinion, where ordinary people gathered every single day to consume violence, gossip, propaganda, celebrity drama, and carefully controlled narratives designed by the most powerful government on Earth. And the craziest part? It worked. To understand how a giant arena became one of the most powerful communication machines in human history, we need to go back to the moment Rome realized controlling information could be more valuable than controlling armies. Long before the Colosseum existed, Rome had a problem. The empire was growing too fast.
It's built with two theaters facing each other. That's what an amphitheater is. So twice as many people could enjoy the entertainment.
By the 1st century BC, Rome controlled territory stretching across Europe, North Africa, and the Middle East. Millions of people speaking different languages, worshipping different gods, and living completely different lives were now expected to think of themselves as Roman. That's not easy, especially when most people couldn't read. There was no television, no newspapers for ordinary citizens, no radio, no internet. If emperors wanted to shape public opinion, they had to do it physically, in person, in front of crowds. That's where Roman entertainment came in. At first, the games were small. Funeral contests held by wealthy families, chariot races, animal hunts, public executions. But Roman leaders quickly noticed something important. People would gather for hours to watch, sometimes days. And once you had thousands of citizens sitting together in one place, you could influence them. Julius Caesar understood this better than almost anyone. He threw massive public games, handed out food, staged elaborate spectacles, and turned himself into a celebrity long before modern fame existed. The Roman poet Juvenal later described the strategy perfectly. Bread and circuses. Keep people fed, keep them entertained, and they'll stop asking dangerous questions. But then Rome's rulers decided ordinary entertainment wasn't enough anymore. They wanted something bigger, something that would make every person entering the city understand one thing immediately: Rome was unstoppable. And that idea would lead to one of the most ambitious construction projects in ancient history. In 64 AD, disaster strikes Rome. A massive fire tears through the city for days. Entire neighborhoods vanish. Thousands lose their homes. Rumors spread that Emperor Nero watched the flames while playing music from his palace. Whether that story is true or not almost doesn't matter, because people believed it. And then Nero makes an even bigger mistake. Instead of rebuilding Rome for the public, he builds a gigantic luxury palace for himself called the Domus Aurea, the Golden House. Artificial lakes, private parks, gold-covered rooms, massive statues of Nero himself. Romans are furious. The emperor looks less like a leader and more like a man completely disconnected from reality. A few years later, Nero is gone. Rome falls into chaos. Multiple emperors rise and fall in a single year. Civil war spreads across the empire. Then a new ruler emerges, Vespasian. And unlike Nero, Vespasian understands optics. He knows Rome doesn't just need stability, it needs symbolism. So he makes a genius political decision. He drains Nero's private lake and announces something almost unbelievable. In the exact spot where Nero built a monument to himself, Rome will build a monument for the people, the Colosseum. Construction begins around 72 AD using tens of thousands of enslaved laborers, many taken during Rome's destruction of Jerusalem. The structure rises fast. Stone arches stacked 4 stories high, complex tunnels underneath, elevators powered by human muscle, trap doors, animal cages. This wasn't just architecture, it was psychological warfare. Every person who saw it understood the message immediately. Rome could build anything. Rome could conquer anyone. Rome had resources so vast it could create an entire artificial world just for entertainment. But the building itself was only part of the story, because what happened inside the Colosseum was even more important. The opening games last 100 days. 100. Thousands of animals are slaughtered. Gladiators fight constantly. Public executions become theatrical performances. Ancient writers describe exotic creatures most Romans had never even seen before: lions, elephants, rhinos, hippos, crocodiles. For many citizens, the Colosseum was their first exposure to the wider world Rome controlled. Think about that. The empire was using live entertainment to show people what existed beyond their borders. Just like social media exposes people to places they'll never visit, and the crowds became addicted to it. Because the Colosseum wasn't only about violence, it was about emotional stimulation. Shock, fear, excitement, outrage, tribal loyalty. The exact same things modern algorithms chase today. Romans followed famous gladiators the way people follow influencers now. Some fighters became celebrities with fan clubs, endorsements, and romantic attention from wealthy admirers. Graffiti found in ancient Pompeii literally praises gladiators the same way sports fans praise athletes online today. One inscription describes a fighter as the sigh of girls. Another calls a gladiator the pride of all women. These men weren't just fighters, they were content. And Rome kept feeding the audience more. But underneath all the excitement was something darker happening. The emperors were learning how to manipulate public emotion in real time. When emperors entered the Colosseum, they weren't isolated from the crowd. They were surrounded by it. They listened to reactions, measured approval, watched public sentiment shift instantly. If food shortages made citizens angry, games distracted them. If political tension rose, spectacles grew larger. If emperors needed popularity, they sponsored extravagant events. The arena became a feedback loop between rulers and the public, almost like an ancient comment section, and sometimes it became dangerous. One event in 59 AD proves just how explosive mass entertainment could become. A gladiator event in Pompeii turns into a full-scale riot between rival groups of spectators. People throw stones. Knives come out. Many are badly injured. The violence gets so severe that Emperor Nero temporarily bans gladiator games in Pompeii entirely. That's how powerful these events had become. They weren't just entertainment anymore. They were shaping identity. Roman citizens viewed themselves through the arena: victory, dominance, strength, conquest. The Colosseum reinforced Roman values every single day. And if you think that sounds familiar, you're not imagining it. Because modern platforms work in almost the exact same way. Algorithms reward outrage because outrage keeps attention. Roman games rewarded violence because violence kept attention. Modern influencers built parasocial audiences. Gladiators built fan bases. Governments today use media to shape narratives. Roman emperors used spectacles. Even the architecture feels strangely modern. The Colosseum had numbered entrances, ticket systems, crowd control patterns, assigned seating based on social class, and highly engineered movement systems allowing tens of thousands of people to enter and leave efficiently. The wealthy sat closest. Ordinary citizens sat higher. Women and the poor often sat near the top. Your social status was visible the second you walked inside. Rome turned society itself into part of the show. And beneath the arena floor, hidden from the audience, workers scrambled through tunnels operating elevators, moving scenery, preparing animals, and cleaning blood from the sand between events. The illusion of effortless entertainment depended entirely on invisible labor, just like today. But eventually, even Rome's greatest machine started breaking down. By the 3rd century, the empire is struggling. Economic collapse, political instability, constant leadership changes, foreign invasions. The games continue, but something feels different now. The empire isn't expanding anymore. It's surviving, and the Colosseum slowly transforms from a symbol of unstoppable Roman confidence into a reminder of a fading world. Then, Christianity rises. For centuries, Christians had sometimes been executed publicly in Roman arenas, though later stories exaggerated how often this happened inside the Colosseum specifically. But as Christianity spreads across the empire, public attitudes toward violence begin shifting, not immediately. Romans still loved spectacle, but slowly, the moral foundation underneath the games starts cracking. By the 5th century, the Western Roman Empire is collapsing. In 404 AD, gladiator combat is officially banned after centuries of bloodshed. Animal hunts continue for a while longer. Public spectacles shrink. Maintenance declines. And eventually, the arena falls silent. Earthquakes damage the structure. Stone gets stolen for other buildings. Parts of the Colosseum become workshops, homes, even fortresses. The greatest entertainment machine in the ancient world becomes a ruin. But somehow, it never disappears. And that might be the most important part of the story. Because nearly 2,000 years later, millions of people still visit the Colosseum every year. Not because the games survived, but because the system behind them did. Modern technology changed the tools. It didn't change human nature. We still gather in massive digital arenas. We still reward outrage with attention. We still turn public conflict into entertainment. We still create celebrities whose fame depends entirely on audience engagement. We still let powerful people shape narratives through spectacle. The screen replaced the sand, but the psychology stayed almost exactly the same. And maybe that's why the Colosseum still feels strangely modern when you stand inside it today. The arches, the tunnels, the towering walls. It doesn't feel like an ancient relic. It feels familiar, because in many ways, we never stopped building colosseums. We just made them digital. The Romans understood something terrifyingly simple. If you can control what captures people's attention, you can influence how they think. And for centuries, the Colosseum did exactly that. Not with algorithms, not with smartphones, not with viral videos, just stone, blood, noise, and 50,000 people desperate to be entertained. That was enough to help hold together one of the largest empires in human history. And maybe the strangest part of all is realizing how little has changed. For more content like this, like and subscribe to Dis-Mantled.